So hello and welcome to a special edition of the State of the Fleet Industry video series produced by Automotive Fleet magazine. And this video series is designed to put a spotlight on key leaders in the fleet management industry. And today I have the real honor to interview Dain Giesie, Assistant Vice President, Fleet Management for Enterprise Fleet Management, who we've interviewed in the past. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of telematics and how telematics is evolving in this industry. So with that, I'd like to welcome you, Dain, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's good to be back.
Well, you know, the big thing that's happening in the telematics industry is this migration away from 3G devices. I mean, this is a big deal. And currently there are millions of connected 3G devices that are being in use, and some are going to be phased out in 2023. And, you know, this will vary by carrier, and some could be as early as January of 2022, which is a couple months away. So, you know, what risks, and this is my question to you, is what risks do fleets have in hanging on to their 3G devices for too long or too close to that cutoff period?
Well, the ultimate risk is that there's an interruption or a disruption in service for their devices. You know, at Enterprise, we've been working over the last year to make sure that we've got a good plan deployed so that we can get our customers migrated, regardless of if their devices are the service is discontinued in January or even into the spring or the summer. You know, with the disruption in the supply chain and the computer chip shortage, that affects the amount of devices that can be migrated at any one given time. So there's a lot of logistics that go into that, and there's a lot of planning to go into that. But you know, as always with our focus at Enterprise is on our customers and making sure that we do what we can to minimize any disruption in their service, and their fleets are operating as efficient as they can.
True, and that's a great point about the logistics. You know, it's going to be a series of migrations that are going to be happening. It's not going to happen all at once, you know, depending on the size of your fleet, of course. But, you know, when you talk about this migration to 5G devices, you know, everybody wants to plan their business intelligently rather than, you know, doing it, you know, this spur of the moment type considerations. But what should they be taking into consideration when they're making this migration away from 3G devices? What advice and recommendations would you provide?
Yeah, you know, there really is no discussion around whether or not they should migrate from 3G to 5G, or from 4G for that matter to 5G. That is legacy technology that is being discontinued. So what they should be considering, and what they need to be talking to their fleet partners about, or their telematics partners about, is what is the plan for migration? Because everybody is fighting for a finite number of computer chips or roll that up into devices, whether that's certain carriers or whether that's some of the different telematics companies that are out there. And so making sure that companies have both the devices that they need to convert their existing 3G technology to 5G, but also they can get their hands on the appropriate amount of devices to fuel any growth that they had, or any additional, what is called run rate in the industry. So it's a balancing act right now to make sure that there's a good plan, that you don't create a run on devices and create a shortage downstream, but there's a good, thoughtful migration plan to get the most important devices, or the ones that are being discontinued, switched out now, and then plan for the 4G and to ultimately be converted to the 5G. So to sum all that up, it's make sure you have a plan. If you haven't been talking to your partners about what the plan to migrate your devices are, if you're not executing that plan right now, that's what you should be considering.
True. Have a plan. Rule number one.
Have a plan, any plan.
But you know, there's a reason for this migration, and there's going to be a whole advent of new technology that's going to be resulting from you know, these new 5G devices out there. So maybe for the viewers, just a brief description as to, or summary of what the advantages are in moving to 5G, and secondly, with these new advantages that are going to be out there, how is that going to be causing telematics technology to evolve as the entire industry ultimately moves to the 5G network?
Sure. So those are I'm going to attack that question in two parts. And one, when you're talking about the device, and you won't see a huge difference in the 5G device versus a 4G or a 3G device. But what it allows for that device to do is it allows for the exchange of information at a much higher rate of speed and a lot more information. The telematics devices still transmit a small enough amount of data that it won't change that a lot, but you will get a lot faster information, and you will get that to the driver or to the decision maker and close that decision making loop faster. Now, 5G as a technology is a complete game changer. And you will see it will speed up innovation, and it will speed up it will improve the speed of doing business. And what I mean by that, so sensors, video technology, smart cities, the way that vehicles communicate with each other, the way that they communicate with other devices, and the innovation that goes around that remains to be seen, but it essentially unlocks a lot of the data limitations that you've seen under legacy technology.
Very true. And it's not only vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to device, it's also vehicle to infrastructure. That's going to be another huge evolution that's going to be happening. But as always, a great conversation, Dain. We've reached our allotted time. Want to thank you for taking the time to talk about this topic. And I'm sure we're going to revisit it once we start making that ultimate transition and starting to look at the new technology that's going to be coming down the pike. So with that, thank you, and have a great day.
Absolutely. Always good to be with you, Mike. Thank you.